welcome back to the channel. My name's InsideAgameR. Welcome back to X-Plane 11 and welcome back to my tutorial series here today with the A300-600st, the Beluga. So this is episode number 2. So in this episode we're going to be looking at takeoff. We're going to be looking at the autopilot features, how do we control the aircraft, what we need to do, ILS landing, and hopefully that should get you guys up and flying. If any of you haven't seen part 1, I do recommend you go back and watch that. That's how we load the aircraft, how we turned her on, all the kind of starter systems from cold and dark. And at the last episode, this is where we ended up, just here at the end of the runway at 04, and we are heading, not very straight, we are heading to Gatwick on a very, very short flight. So just go over the pre-checks here. All our lights are set for takeoff. We have auto brakes set to maximum. They need to be just like any Airbus. Spoilers are armed. We are 15 flaps for takeoff, which is what the EFB gave us, if you remember. Go to the performance page. We are flexing to 59, rotational speed today at 139. This rotates very slow. Now, we also had to pitch trim it ourselves, which we have done here, down 1.3. So we're down about 1.3, so rough kind of guess there. It's all good. So things are looking good. So what we're going to do, we're going to take off. So with the systems of the Beluga, like I said, these are your speeds that you refer to, not the ones that are on your FMC. And that's the same for real life, because like I've told you before, this was modeled on the A300. They didn't want to make a new flight system for a plane that they did not build very many of. Okay, so there would be a third person. You would have a chief engineer here with you guys, and he would be the one creating all these speeds. What they've done, they put this in here to kind of balance the workload, obviously, because it's usually one person flying on a flight sim. That is the idea. Now, we have put our vertical speed to 2,600, which has given us a green line here. So this is what I'm going to aim for until I'm about 3,000 or 4,000 out. Then we're going to input our autopilot features. And if we just go quickly here to the autopilot, so basically what you need to know just before we take off, the main things here, you know, this is how you change between your maps and your plans. This is how you change your range. At the moment we'll keep it short because we're taking off. We will click auto throttles, but not quite yet. So you do put in your speed. This is what your V2 speed would be. This is what you'd put in here. For now, but that will change. We're going to go straight up to 19,000 feet, which is what SimBrief gave us for today's flight. It's a very short flight. Again, if you're using ATC or anything like that, if you're using VATSIM, they might give you a different clearance, but we're just going to go straight up to 19,000. And the heading, you'd normally just put your runway heading there, is normally the best thing to do. And your vertical speed is done here. Now, main things we're going to want here is altitude hold, level change. So we do need to level change this ourselves. We'll talk a little bit more about that once we kind of get up as well. And to kick in the navigation and follow the FMC flight plan, we will just click nav. If you wanted heading to select to use the heading, etc., you just click on this one. If you're going to use your vertical speed to descend, here we go, we'll use this one, and we'll need this for the ILS at the end, but again, we'll talk about that once we get to that point. Autopilot, this is how you flick it on. So if you're in the co-pilot seat there, flick it on. If you're one, this will disengage your autopilot here. And the 2 little buttons over here that we need to do. This is your flight director, obviously we want on, which gives us our green lines here. And we will need this one for the ILS, but make sure it's on nav. If you're using the FMC navigation, make sure it's on nav, not VOR. And again, like I said, the ILS we'll have a look at. Once we get up in the air, we'll set our approach page, etc. So far we've got flex 2 here, 61. This is what we're going to keep on. So then when we climb, we're going to change then to MCT, to climb. And then we've got a cruise, or you can just flick it into auto. It's up to you really how you want to do that. Okay, this just turns up your lights here for these. Okay, so we're good for takeoff, guys. We're going to release park and brake, and we're just going to watch our engines here. We want to get them up to about 40%, make sure they stabilize. Straighten her up. You want to hold your nose down a little bit like all Airbuses, because it will try and take off. Okay, but you do manually take off yourself. Okay, we have air movement. Okay, we're through 100 knots already. Check. Okay, we're reaching V1 now, and rotate. Bring the nose back nice and slowly. You got a big bum, remember? Bring her up, pitch her up. There we go. Positive climb, gear up. I'll do that too long because, yeah, like I said, we're going to go all over the place. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to directly turn to the right, flaps up.
Terrain too low, terrain too low, terrain too low, terrain too low, terrain.
Ignore that, it's just because we're a bit low, but we've brought back the flaps now, as you can see with the speed. And we're going to head towards our navigation here. Once we're lined up with the navigation, we can put in our autopilot. What we're going to do here very quickly while we're still turning, because this is a bit fiddly, I want to bring this up to about 220, because that's what we're going to use to climb. Again, it's not very easy when the aircraft moves. This is the fiddliest part of this aircraft. Okay, we're now heading towards that waypoint. I am now going to flick on the autopilot. And I'm going to hit navigation. Now I'm going to try and get the speed up to about 220 in the meantime, because we're already... Oh my god. Yeah, like I said, this is not my favourite part of this aircraft. Like I said, once it moves a little bit, the camera moves with it. And yeah, it's very fiddly. Okay, we were good. No, we're not. We get ourselves to about 240. There we go, that'll do us for a second. Okay, just ignore that for a second. It will now bring us down on our speeds. Not the prettiest of takeoffs, sorry guys. It's because, you know, you're trying to think of 1,000 things to do. Okay, what you can do here now is go level change. So what the level change is going to do, it's going to rise you by the speeds, okay? And that's why we were over speeding, because it was going nowhere basically. We just had the nav on and it was just doing what I wanted it to do. We weren't climbing, so we are now climbing properly. So yeah, so if you are going to manually fly yourself out of your sits and stars, which I normally would do, you know, you keep an eye on that, reduce your throttles, etc. And now it's kicked in. It is auto throttling. It is slowing itself down to get to 240 because that's what it's going to use to climb. So yeah, not the best example, but you kind of get the gist. Okay, so you disarm your spoilers there. Flaps have gone up. You saw the little S on here. Once you hit about 180, flaps have to go up. So yeah, it's a bit fiddly that you have to manually control it. Okay, so we're going to click that to climb now. We're going to climb mode. It's going to fix itself, sort itself out. Or if you wanted to, you can flick it into auto. And you can see it's already put itself into climb. So we'll leave that in auto now for a minute. We're above 10,000 feet, guys. So this is where your lights will go off here now. So the only lights you'll have on is your beacon, your strobe, your nav, and your wings. Okay, so that is all looking good. And she's going up very quickly to this 19,000, as you're going to see. So what you're going to do, you're going to start bringing it out, okay? This aircraft does simulate the top of the descent and ascent markers. You can see the blue one there. We're literally going to be at the top of the descent already. Again, I've got no weather on just for this tutorial, just to make life easy for us. Got a little bit of talking to talk about. Now this does say TCAS is in standby. Again, if you come down here, you can see a TCAS. This is how you would put it on. If you're using your VATSIMs and stuff. So yeah, you click it here, frequency's over here, so if you want to change that frequency, which I've already shown you, so you know, you just put it here, etc. Okay, but we've got a little bit of time now while we're here in the climb. Autopilot is doing what it needs to do. Autopilot's on. We are not using the vertical speed, we're only using that as a guideline for when we're climbing out. That's all I'm using it for. But then once we hit in your nav, then we're going to just use level change, which is going to run off the throttle. It will only climb with what it thinks it should climb through those speeds. Now this aircraft is obviously a little bit slower, so you know, max speed on this is probably about 290, depending on obviously your cost index and stuff like that. But you know, I sit around 270 to 280 is a nice little kind of flight. Okay, so that's pretty much all that hard part done. Okay, so what we want to do is now look at the ILS landing. Okay, so there's a few things we need to do here. And the first thing we need to do is bring up our charts. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this screen across. I'm not going to go into chart reading too much in this one. We will be taking the willow approach. Obviously, is this way around? Can I change the way around that is? That's the way the chart's going to be. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to be coming in this way, off the willow transition, up and around. Now, a few things that we need in this chart. Okay, the first one we need, oh, I know why, because it is, right, hang on. That's the right chart. Okay, so the first thing that we need is this, the 110.9. This is our ILS frequency, and the course is going to be 078. They're pretty much the most important things that we need off this chart to start with. Okay, so we're now going up to 19,000, so we can now increase the speed as you wish. Again, it's up to you. You know, 270 is going to be perfectly fine for this flight, and the engines are going to auto throttle themselves and sort themselves out. Okay, so the ILS frequency. So we're not going to be too long on our flight here today. If I find the right one, here it is. So what you need to do is click this little page that says landing. It's now giving us our landing rates for what it's calculated itself. So the approach speed of 130. So we're going to be full flaps by 142 and our V speed of 125. This can land very slowly. Okay. Okay, we're just going to ignore that speed there for a second. Whatever it is it's given us. Okay, so we can now look at the approach. Okay, so the approach page here will pretty much tell us we need. It says that we will be, or what we will be. This will tell us here we should be at flaps 30-40, which should be a full flap. So we're going to click our full flaps here. Again, you'd ignore these speeds because these speeds are not the right speeds. Okay, it is a Cat 3 landing, so it is a 50 for our minimums, 50H. And our wind correction, we're going to put 5 knots. So it can give or take 5 knots. Okay, and our wind correction. But we will be doing a flaps 30-40, as you can see it here. Okay, so that's that bit set. Now for the ILS itself. So many camera keys, I've already forgotten them. Okay. As it's already got its clearance there. Okay, that is fine. What we need to do is make sure this ILS frequency has the correct frequency. So as we looked before, it was 110.90. So this is wrong. So we're going to put in 110.90. And we're going to throw that into our ILS, okay? And we're going to make sure we throw in our course as well. The course is 078. 078, in she goes. Now that is our ILS ready to rock and roll. Okay, so we're good to go now with the ILS. The only other thing that we will put in is our D and H as we come into our approach, but we will talk about that when we get a bit closer to our approach. So there we have it, guys. So this aircraft, you've got to do a lot of things manually, but that is realistic to the aircraft, okay? So look, takeoff was a bit messy there by me. It was only like my 4th or 5th takeoff, so yeah, could have controlled that a little bit better. So as you take off, make sure you control your ascent till you're happy, and then the biggest killer is these knob switches. Unfortunately, there's no way to link them to a button, unless maybe you have you know, the Cytec control panels that can change this. Maybe that's the best way to do this, because yeah, it's very fiddly, because once this aircraft moves a little bit, the camera doesn't move with it, so your mouse is continuously being dragged away, which is a bit of an annoyance and a bit of a problem. Hopefully that will be looked at. Hopefully there's something we can do, like once you've clicked it once, maybe, I don't know, I'm sure there's something they can do, but yeah, it's very, very annoying. So that's what kind of makes you lose a bit of control over the takeoff, but again, just make sure you watch your speed as you take off, because you are manually controlling your speed. I stopped climbing, I kind of leveled off, that's why I overspeeded very, very quickly. But as you can see, that was my mistake. Change yourself into nav, altitude, hold while you go to level change, and that will control it by the speed. You just got to get that set. I suppose what you could do on the floor, instead of putting your 142 as your V2 speed, you could put your 240 here. Now obviously it just won't show you the second line for your V2 as you're taking off, so you know it's unrealistic, but because of how the aircraft cameras are, I'd probably suggest put 240 in there, and then once you hit your V1 just make sure you take off. That would be the best way to control your takeoff, in all honesty. It's probably what I will do from here on out. Okay, so look, I'm going to talk to you guys. A bit of turbulence. Nice. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to talk to you guys once we hit our top of descent. Okay guys, we're just coming up to Kidley. We just passed the top of the descent marker. It's actually gone from my screen now. You use that as a guideline only, okay? Just like in real life, they kind of have to work it all out themselves. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop us at 1,800 feet. And I'm going to drop us down to whatever our ILS was. I think it is 3,000. Let me just check that chart again one more time. Charts are your best friend. Okay, we will have to be 4,000 down. So we would have to be at 3,000. Okay, so put in 3,000, our vertical speed. I'm going to now hit the level change button. And we're now going to start descending. We're going to ignore my scenery issue, whatever I have at one of them airports. And now we're going to be descending towards our final destination. You can see the blue marker now coming up. It's actually saying we're going to be down way too early, as you can see. So we can play around with that a little bit. We can make the descent not so harsh. Maybe 1,400 is fine. And bring ourselves under the 250 mark as well, because under 10,000 feet you have to be under 250, and I don't want to mess with it later. So I'm going to bring our speed down now. Give us plenty of time to talk as well. Speed is down. Okay, so what the aircraft is doing is slowing itself down first before it carries on its descent, which is very, very normal. Okay, so once we're under the 10,000, like I said, you remember our landing speed today should be about 1.2 something, 124, so we've got plenty of time to think about that. The ILS numbers are already set, so we will activate that a little bit sooner. We're going to start bringing in our nav here so we can see what's going on a little bit better. Again, it still thinks that we're going to be down nice and early for this, but that's fine. Okay, it is what that is. It's very simple. Put in your vertical speeds, or you can do your level change through your speeds. It's up to you how you want to do it. So, because we're already down through 40,000 feet, we're going, once we hit 10,000, we're going to hold 10,000 for a little bit, as we've got plenty of time on this approach. Okay, so we are coming down towards the 10,000 mark. So we will be able to put on our landing lights. What I'm going to do, because we would be down a bit too early, I'm going to just change this to altitude hold. Okay, so once we just break that 10,000 point, or just under, we'll press altitude hold, and we're going to hold that altitude for a little bit. We don't need to be down this soon. Again, like I said, this would be trial and error with these. So we're going to go altitude hold, going to level off. We are now going to throw on our landing lights again now for landing. Okay, so that's the next step. Once we hit this next waypoint, we're going to drop down to our final. Again, we'll be down nice and early, but we need to be at full config by the point the ILS kicks in, just about here. So I will speak to you now once we get to the next waypoint. Okay, so we just passed that next waypoint. At Willow, we have to be at 4,000, and then we drop another 1,000 for final. I've already put our 4,000 in here now, and we're going to level change her down. We're still holding at 210. Fine, you can see the engines are now spooling back, and we're going to start descending into final for our approach into Gatwick Airport. So you can see the blue marker. You can see that we're going to be down at 4,000. More than early enough. So like, obviously you got to think of the physics of this aircraft. It is huge, so it does drop faster than other aircraft, but it's okay. Like I said, if you are using VATSIM or any other ATC, they're going to drop you down in stages probably anyways, so it's no big drama. I'd rather be down early than too late. So basically, once we get up to here, it's going to make a turn. We have to be at 4,000 at Willow. Once we pass Willow, transition down to 3,000, where we should connect on to... Okay, so we do have a vectors actually in here, don't we? But again, that's fine. So it'll just join on. We may have to vector ourselves round. We'll see what we have to do. But once we hit this 3,000 point, this is when we're going to start setting all our flaps, reducing our speeds. We need to be at full configuration when we take over for the ILS. Again, ILS landing, ILS frequency and course is already input into ACARS, which is here. So all we're going to do once we get a bit closer is flick our switch and our land button once our diamonds start becoming active. But we'll just watch this now as we do the full transition in. Okay guys, so we're down at our 4,000. We will transition at Willow. So what we'll do, we're going to start preparing the cabin for everything we need to do here now. So just go up above. The lights are all set now for landing. All that is pretty okay. We're going to come down below here now. We're going to set our brakes to medium, our auto brakes. Obviously we're going too fast to be allowed to press that just yet. Okay, so we're going to arm the spoiler. And we are going to set our first notch of flaps here now as well. And we're going to start bringing that speed down just a little bit. It's going to be a slow approach for us. But I'd rather come in slow so I have time to talk. So once we get past Willow, we do get to transition down. And then we're going to be looking for our ILS. So at this point, what we will do is float on our ILS switch. So this is switched down. We will hopefully wait for our diamonds to become active. Okay, so that's what we're kind of waiting for. Once we make this bend. Okay, we're going to flaps 2 here at this point. And other than that, everything else is looking okay at the moment. Like I said, until we pass Willow, we have to stay at 4,000 as our transitional altitude. And after that, we will bring our speeds down a hell of a lot more. We want to be on a lot slower, pretty much nearly at full config by the time we make the turn. That is the idea here. Like I said, our landing speeds are here. Approach at 133, V reference at 1.3. Okay, so with full flaps by 140, slats 177, 186. Okay, so we're now literally just about to cross Willow. In 1.5 nautical miles. Gatwick Airport is just down below us over here. Everything is looking good. Okay, so the last other little part we're going to do is throw in our D&H here. And behind now the aircraft is moving. We want to set this to 50. As is a cat-free landing here, what we are doing. We're going to bring our navigation down now to the lowest. Our DH is set, our throttles are still set. We've now just crossed Willow, so we'll now go down to 3,000 feet. Okay, so she does float a little bit at landing, and she does pull quite heavily to the left. I noticed between 100 and 80 knots. There's a bit of a pull that can be quite hard to counteract with the joystick, so just be prepared for it. We will be a full flaps landing, which is what it says on our piece of paper here. It's going to be full flaps. We've now set our ILS switch. When the diamonds become active and start moving, we will press land. That should bring us all the way in. Then we're going to disengage the, whenever you're comfortable for the ILS landing. Some people want to let it auto land. It is up to you how you want to bring her in. It's completely up to you. I'm going to keep our speed up at 190 for a minute until we cross to about here. Then I'm going to, because we're already down now, 3,000 already. There we go. We're going to set our pressures back to 299.2. There we go. 299.1. There we go. 299.2. So obviously when we took off, one thing I actually did miss. I forgot to change this to standard because I'm not using any weather, so I didn't think about it. But obviously then as you start your approach, you need to put it back to your Q and H. Okay, so don't forget to do that. My apologies, guys. Like I said, might tidy this tutorial up in a little bit once I kind of get used to it, but a lot of people want to get something out there now. So I'm trying to get something out there as quick as I can for you guys. But I might update this as well, probably for sure. Okay then, so we're getting a bit close now, so let's drop our speeds now. We're going to start thinking about our approach speed. Was 133. Okay, we can see the diamonds have now come alive. Okay, perfect. That's what we wanted to see. Drop the next set of flaps. Once we drop to 140, as you can see here, we are now looking for full flaps at this point. And once we just drop below, there you go. Full flaps have been set. Okay, landing gear has to be down now once the full flaps have been set as well. Otherwise the aircraft will cry at you. So here we go, here come the landing gear. Looking nice. So yeah, so once you drop down to that speed, landing gear have to be out or the aircraft does cry. So don't forget that. Okay, so we have our diamond, what we want to see. So once we see that moving, we will just hit our land button. It's probably going to make this turn and it will probably have to go just before, because this is where we should be intercepting the ILS system today. Okay, so at this point, medium auto brakes are now set. So let's go through our last final checklist. If you were doing a continuous flight, you may start thinking about putting APU switches and stuff on once you're landing. We won't be doing that. We won't be going in that far, but just so you're aware, once you touch down on your taxi, you can start firing up your APUs again. Also, you can put the engines into continuous relight if you were maybe going off again straight away, but obviously we're not doing that. Okay, so we got beacons on. Yes, strobe lights are on. Navigation 2's on. Landing lights are on. Wing lights are on. D&H is set. We have our ILS is active, so that's good. We know it's going to do something in a minute. Medium auto brakes. We do have our spoilers armed. So everything else now should be good for landing. One more button that we need to press, which is vital, is the land button to engage the ILS. And at that point, it does come down to you guys. Some people take out quite far out, they want to bring her in. It is completely up to you. If you're new to maybe flying, I don't know why you might be flying this if you're new, but if you are, you know, take over around like, you know, 500, 400 out, give yourself a chance. I always say try and take out further out back. It gives you a chance to make any corrections with the winds, etc. But we have no weather on, so we shouldn't be affected. I didn't want a variable for the tutorial because I didn't want to think of something else. Okay, diamonds have now become active. They're starting to move. Once this one comes down just a little bit more, we will activate the land button. Okay, she's now dropped enough for me. We're going to engage the land button. And once this diamond crosses, it will start controlling the aircraft's altitude. Okay. But then the only other thing that we have to think about are the speeds. I think it's crazy the speeds that this thing can land on. I think it was 127, wasn't it? 123. Yeah, wow, it is really low. But yeah, look, it is. You can see the blue line has been put up here. So look, it has engaged. It is intercepted. It is now starting to descend for us. We're at final speeds. We're on final. Runways in sight. Yeah, it's all good. Everything is looking nice. Okay, so when you want to disengage, two choices. You can disengage from here, or just tap the red button on the joystick. I find joysticks easier. Make sure you double tap it, otherwise the alarm will go off. Make sure you're now sitting comfortably for landing. We're going to wait for the call outs. Once we kind of hear the 40, engines off, 40, 50, 40, I normally bring all thrust back. So all the throttle will stay on here, but we will bring it all the way back to idle once we hear that. Then we'll start making our flare around 10. Very small flare in this aircraft. Obviously, it's very heavy, so be careful. And then reverse is obviously set once we touch down. And we just hope for a nice landing today. So I'm going to take over probably about 800 feet out. I think it'd be good. Like I said, it just comes down to preference. Some people like to let them bring them all the way in. Completely up to you guys. The main thing is here is that we're incepted, lining us up nicely. It should become easy. Obviously, if you have real weather on, you know, depending on if you can see the runway, you know, you wouldn't take over if you couldn't see the runway really. You'd want to make sure you bring that ILS in a bit closer. Obviously, if you do pass your minimums, you do go rounds. Depending on how high you're simulating the sim, I suppose. But for me, everything is looking nice. We want to try and come off here, and we'll go up to any of the cargo bays, and I will show you that you can unload her and how to unload her very simply. Very just like the first episode. If you watched that, very simple. As we do come in, 500 more feet to go. If any of you want to come fly for the VA, the virtual airlines that I have created, we are on simplyconnectva.com. Come into the Discord, link in the description down below. Come talk to me about it. We'll help you get set up. This is in the VA. We have added this aircraft. So if you do have this, you can fly this in the VA. We have a nice livery painted for it. So yeah, up to you guys. Make sure you do hit the like button as well, guys. Much appreciated. Help the channel grow. Trying to see if we can get to 5,000 subscribers by next month. That was my goal. We're doing pretty well. Okay, now the important part, landing. All's looking good. ILS is bringing us in nice and straight. Not much that we have to do. Like I said, you can let it bring it in, or you take over as you please. Like I said, we're going to take about 800. And a good judgment here is just follow your flight director. That should bring you in, okay? And obviously you got your PAPI lights, 2 red, 2 white is what you're aiming for. So they're your two directions. So not really looking for the runway. Well, if you're looking for the runway, make sure you try and keep him within the lights. Just follow your flight director, guys. Much easier. Okay. Double tapped that. We're now in control of the aircraft. Still 2 red, 2 white. We're just following that lovely glide slope. You can see I'm just following the green. We're aiming for this to be the middle of the runway. That's what you kind of aim for, to land in the center of the runway. Okay, everything is still a bit high. Okay, we've got a nice long runway. Engine spool, slow flare.
10, 5.
Reverse is out. Down below 80, reverse is in. Back to manual braking. Not my best landing, guys. Under too much pressure, clearly. And then we just want to make sure we ease her out. Here we go. Yeah, not my best landing. Do apologise. Okay, what we will do is throw on the parking brake. We're going to turn off our strobes at this point. We'll throw on our taxi lights. We'll take off our landing lights. And we will turn back on runway lights as we see there. Okay, so if any of you are interested in my terrible landing, the landing rate on that one was actually nearly 350. Yeah, it was very heavy. It was my fault for what I did wrong. Always when you make tutorials, there's always the time to mess them up, hey? Okay, so yeah, look, not the best landing. Talking too much. I generally don't like talking when I land. I do try and just, you know, silence. But obviously I wanted to talk you through the steps. I wanted to come down before the end of the piano keys. Came down a bit late as well. You know, look. Not a perfect landing, but what I'm trying to show you is the systems for landing. If you did watch the stream there the other day, you'll notice that, you know, had a lovely landing. Yeah, no wind, and I completely balls that up. Great. Okay, so what I will do, we're going to taxi. And I'm just going to taxi her down this way. Cargo doors down there somewhere. What we're going to be aiming for. So there you go. So there's all the basic principles of what you needed to do. Just do the last bit a little bit better than what I did. Like I said, I probably will redo this series, but so many people kind of asked me to get something for them. So, you know, the main thing is the flight systems, and you guys can mess up your own flights. You don't need me for help on that one. It's very hard to talk and land. And the XP Realistic kind of overdid the kind of shakiness for the slam landing, but can't justify myself. Okay, what we'll do then, we'll make our turn. We're gonna park ourselves up here. Now to unload this aircraft, you can unload her anywhere you wish. You don't have to go to like set airports or anything. Oh, didn't retract our flaps and slats either. Okay. We'll throw on our parking brake. And to unload this, it's very simple. You'll just go back to your EFB pages. You go to your ops menu, go to ground ops, go to ground services, and you'll go to the loader, and you can request the loader. And the loader will just appear. So wherever you are, it's best if you're in front of a building. That's generally the best way to do it. We can show our 2 engines off, and you can now disengage all your... And there we have it, guys. This is how you fly the Airbus as a very quick tutorial to get you guys up and going. We can watch the landing just very quickly, because why not? Hang on, we don't want to watch the landing yet, because we've requested this. Oh, we should be alright. Because the dome's opening, I don't think we can rewatch the landing. So what I'll do, I'm going to end the video here. If I can do it, it'll be shown just after I say goodbye. We'll see. If you request this already and it's doing whatever it's doing, unfortunately, you cannot watch your replay. So you need to watch your replay before you start doing all of this, just so you guys know. If you have enjoyed this content, please do subscribe down below to the channel. Hit the bell icon for notifications. I upload another video every single day. And enough for myself, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.